Brother kept me in the dark about his engagement party, so I made sure to miss his big day and sent a message instead. I, 28 male, have a twin brother. Growing up, we were inseparable, and until recently I thought we were still very close. I was always more of a shy nerd and he was an extrovert that played sports throughout our childhood and high school, but we spent almost all of our time together, by choice. We went our separate ways when college came. He stayed local in Arizona and I went to college in Portland. When I graduated, I stayed there because I fell in love with the city. My friends are here, my professional networks from internships were here, etc. But I always flew back home for holidays, events, birthdays, etc. My brother announced on Instagram that he and his girlfriend of 3 years got engaged. I was incredibly happy for him and texted him congrats. He mentioned they were planning to have an engagement party in 6 to 8 weeks and I told him to let me know so I can book a flight to come celebrate. I was never told a date. If I brought it up with him or anyone in my family, they'd change the subject or say it's still being planned and confirmed. After a few weeks I texted my brother to ask about the date because it must be getting close and I don't want to pay for a last-minute flight. No response. I asked my mom for details and she said, "It's not really an engagement party, just a small dinner with family. There's no need to come down for it." I eventually found out that it was, in fact, a big party. They rented out an entire restaurant for 4 hours and there were about 80 guests, family, friends, cousins, everyone. Everyone was told I couldn't make it. My aunt, who was like a second mother to me, texted me that she was very disappointed I couldn't make time to join and I replied that I would have happily come, but I was not invited. Word spread quickly about my snub and my parents and brother tried to say it was just a misunderstanding. That was almost over a year ago. Since then I've tried to get to the bottom of why I wasn't invited. Over the course of months it went from, it was just meant to be a small gathering, to I don't know what happened, there must have been a miscommunication, to it's just a party. It's no big deal. I asked my brother if he was mad at me. I thought maybe his fiancée didn't like me. Even if she or he didn't want me there, why were my parents okay with this? This really wasn't like them. Christmas and Easter was awkward as hell because no one but me wanted to address the elephant in the room and any conversation about anything was like small talk with strangers. When I visited in May for my sister's birthday, I left early after my sister said, "You moved so far away, it's like you're not really family anymore. You make everything feel so weird now." 9 months ago I got the save the date announcement and 6 months ago I got the invitation to the wedding. I wasn't asked to be in the wedding party, which is fine and wasn't surprising at the point. My sister and younger brother were asked to be in the wedding party, so another snub. I also didn't get A+1 for my girlfriend I've been seeing for almost a year and a half. My sister, however, got A+1 for her FWB. So I decided I wasn't welcome and I was probably only invited for optics and to play happy family. I didn't RSVP no since I knew that would cause a shit show, I just didn't go. The wedding was this past weekend. No one contacted me about missing the rehearsal dinner, so I guess even if I did go, I wasn't invited to that either or expected to be there. I started getting calls and texts about an hour before the ceremony asking where I was, if my flight was delayed, how far along I will be, etc., and I ignored them. They stopped for a while during the ceremony but started up again right after. I finally picked up my mom's call and she screamed, "Where the hell are you?" I replied, "In Portland, where you all prefer me to be." She said, "This is your brother's wedding, how could you embarrass us?" I answered, "It's just a party. It's no big deal, right?" It was probably the first time in my life my mother was speechless. After a few seconds of silence, I said, "Tell everyone I said hi," and I hung up. Update 1. I also thought it'd be 50-50 NTA and UTA, because I know what I did was a bit petty. For those who didn't read my last post, the thick of it is that I was specifically not invited to my twins' engagement party, specifically not included in the wedding party, and I chose not to attend after being iced out for the past year. To the people who said UTA, I understand your reasons. Yes, it was cowardly to not RSVP to avoid drama, but looking back I was in a headspace where I just caved to the guilt if I RSVP'd that I wasn't planning to attend. Also, a little part of me was hoping they'd realize I didn't RSVP and they tell me they want me to come. But every day that passed between the RSVP date and the wedding I got angrier and more hurt and I wanted to make it clear in a big way that if they don't want me around I don't have to be around. And I get that's an move. I had a long phone call with my aunt and cousin last night about the wedding drama. They have given me some more info and our suspicions are a bit of conjecture based on what we know and what we've heard, but here it goes. We really do think my mother felt I rejected them when I didn't move back after graduating. This is despite always coming home for my brother and sister's graduations, all birthdays, mine and immediate families, holidays, special events, etc. I practically visit on a monthly basis. But despite this, we think that she has some weird vendetta against me for splitting up her family and being an example to my siblings that they don't have to stay local. Even worse, somehow visiting so often made my mother resentful because my aunt mentioned that my mother once told her a few years ago that I was flaunting my wealth by showing I could visit so often. Thanks to my senior year internship, I went immediately into a field where progression can be quick, and thanks to going back for a very specialized master's degree, I am in a very niche space within that field and was able to move up faster. I'm not bragging, it was just luck, connections, and a great mentor early on. People suggested my brother might be jealous. He does earn less, but as far as I know he loves his job. It just doesn't have the same career progression. Honestly, his job is much more exciting than mine and I'm sure it fulfills him a lot more. My job isn't terrible, it's just not one anyone wants to hear work stories about at a dinner party, lol. I was also flaunting my money by gifting family money when they needed it. My grandfather often said, never loan family money. Give it freely if you want to, but you'll destroy relationships when you start asking for repayment. Not a week of Judge Judy reruns goes by without proving that true, so when I could, I gifted my family money when they needed it. Money for car repairs, money to help with my parents' mortgage when my dad was out of work during COVID, money when my brother ran out halfway through his kitchen renovations. And until last night, my parents' internet and Disney Plus bills, but I've now canceled the monthly auto payments. Again, this was me flaunting my success. But they never stopped asking, either. My aunt and cousin also said they've heard lots of passive-aggressive comments about me over the years. First from my mother during the first few years after I decided to stay in Portland and then eventually from my siblings. We're pretty sure my mother slowly poisoned them against me for not moving back home and showing what happens if they ever tried to move away. Someone said this about my mother meeting my girlfriend in my previous post, TBH, given the context of everything else that's happened, what your mother said here about finally finding someone who can put up with you sounds less like a tongue-in-cheek joke and more like a not-so-subtle barb. I see it now. I laughed it off as just my mom's humor, but I now also see that these passive-aggressive comments to me, to my siblings, over years was subtle manipulation to turn them against me and for me to learn to accept it. A lot of people suggested this treatment was to get me to move back home and to punish me for leaving, but I'm not going to come home to embrace treatment like this and hope it goes away now that they got their way. Especially when it's been too ingrained in them by now. It also explains why for the past few years almost every conversation is initiated by me. They simply don't like me anymore and don't need me until they need or want something. My cousin also learned from another cousin that my brother shot himself in the foot when he mentioned the engagement party. I wasn't supposed to know at all. The plan was to tell everyone I couldn't make it and hope I'd never find out. My brother told that cousin that I wasn't supposed to find out about it, but after he let it slip I wouldn't shut up about asking to come. Based on how they've been talking about me for a couple of years, lots of extended family thinks I'm some annoying loser who makes my too often visits miserable for my family and I can't get the hint to fuck off. So I'm finally fucking off. My aunt and mother never really got along. My aunt is my mother's brother's wife, but my aunt said she knew all of this had my mom's name all over it and that years of digs, passive-aggressive comments, and full-on aggressive comments have all come to this. She said they're not the same people. I told them that I don't think there's any coming back from this, then. My aunt and cousin both mentioned that they never heard my dad say anything bad, so my aunt is going to have my uncle talk to my dad man to man to see if he can find out what the hell is going on. I thanked my aunt and cousin and reminded them they are pretty much the only family I have left and I don't plan on losing touch with them. My aunt even mentioned that they haven't gone camping in years and asked if there are any nice places around Portland. It's too far to drive to go camping, but it means they may visit sometime. They also said they're going to try to correct info about me with extended family members, but I told them to not bother, they've already chosen to believe it. But for now my immediate family are cut off. I've blocked them on my phone and social media. No more free handouts when they need money. No more wasting money to go to Phoenix fucking Arizona 10 plus times a year just to be roasted by the sun and family members. Update 2. I thought cutting them off would be this quiet thing where everything finally goes blessedly silent and I just get on with my life. That held for about 4 days. Then my uncle did exactly what my aunt said he would do and went and had a beer with my dad. Apparently they sat in his garage like it was 2003, door half open, watching the same cul-de-sac they've watched since the Bush administration and talking in that way men communicate where you get an entire emotional novel told through 2 grunts and a sentence and a half. My dad emailed me from his work account because he couldn't text or call. The subject line was literally hey. He said he wanted to hear my side without interruption and, if I'd allow it, to try to fix what he failed to stop. I told him I'd do a video call on the condition that he didn't patch my mom in by accident. He promised and kept it. We talked for an hour. He looked older than the last time I saw him, somehow smaller. He didn't try to convince me I was imagining things. He didn't try to make it a both sides situation like he's been doing for years. He said in a voice that made me feel 9 years old and 12 feet tall at the same time, I let your mother set the tone and I didn't want to be the bad guy. And in doing that, I was the worst guy. I told him about how it felt to be erased in real time. He shook his head and said, you know I never believed you would actually not come. You always came, and there it was. The assumption that I was an inexhaustible resource. We sat in the kind of silence that builds rather than kills. He didn't excuse. He didn't fix. He said, what do you need from me? I told him I needed honesty that was actually messy and specific, not the family's favorite flavor of miscommunication. He said he'd talk to my mother and he'd talk to my brother. I told him he could talk to whoever he wants but I'm not reinstating the family plan. 2 days later I got a DM on Instagram from someone I didn't recognize at first because her profile photo is now her in a wedding dress and I'm not used to that face being framed by a veil. My new sister-in-law wrote me. Long message. I had to scroll to read it all. She apologized for the engagement party and the wedding party and for staying quiet while I got narrated into a villain. She said she thought she was keeping the peace because it was easier to live with your mom being mad than your mom being mad and planning to destroy your wedding. Those were her words. She said she had receipts and asked if I even wanted to see them or if that would just salt the wound. If I'm being honest, part of me wanted to preserve the abstraction. It's easier to be angry at a fog. But I told her to send what she felt was fair. It wasn't a fog. It was a spreadsheet. Screenshots of text that started the week after the proposal. My mother, planning. My mother saying we'll do a small family dinner, and by family I mean the family that stayed. Then we'll tell people he's busy, he's always so busy, followed by I won't have my own son waltzing in from Portland and making this night about him. I guess a rented out restaurant with 80 people qualifies as small if the person you're cutting out is the only one not invited. The texts to my brother were the worst. Don't tell him the date. He'll book a flight. He always does. You'll never learn to do a celebration without him unless we make you. I didn't know whether to laugh or start chewing drywall. There were also lines that hit so precisely I felt them in my molars. He thinks money buys him a seat at every table. He's been flaunting it for years. He needs to learn this family doesn't run on his handouts. The irony of typing that while my autopay was keeping their Wi-Fi lights blinking was not lost on me or, apparently, on the universe because I got 3 separate texts that same week through numbers I didn't have blocked. One from my sister, one from my brother, one from my mother's best friend, no idea how she got my number, all some flavor of did you cancel Disney Plus? Yes, Janet. The mouse no longer lives here. My sister-in-law also sent a voice memo because she said texting felt cowardly now. She cried a little and said my brother loves me but that he has this lifelong muscle memory of following the path that keeps the house quiet, and that she is disgusted with herself for benefiting from it. She said she knew he messed up when he told the cousin that he let it slip about the engagement party and I wouldn't shut up about asking to come. She said hearing it back, she realized that line sounded like she was talking about a telemarketer when she was talking about his twin. She said, I'm sorry. I should have said this sooner. I hope it matters that I'm saying it now. And because the universe has a cruel sense of comedy, my brother called at 1 a.m. Arizona time from what I can only assume was his honeymoon balcony because I could hear waves and a blender and the particular acoustics of a very expensive tile. He was either tipsy or jet-lagged or both. He asked if I could talk. I told him I could listen. He said he didn't know what to say that didn't sound like a script someone else had written. I told him the truth would sound weird and jagged and he should try that. He said he didn't invite me to the engagement party because mom told him not to and because every time he pictured me there he pictured the tight smile on mom's face and the energy it takes to hold that smile and how that energy always turns into a storm in the car ride home. He said, I picked the version where the storm happened to you instead. He said, I'm sorry. He said it 3 times, like he was trying to convince the room. He said he misses me. Then he said he's angry with me, too, for not coming to the wedding, which is fair and absurd and true at the same time. I told him I want my brother, not a co-conspirator. I said if he wants to fix things, this isn't going to be a group chat apology with balloon emojis. He asked what fixing looks like. I said it starts with telling the truth to the same people you told the lie to. He went quiet for a long time. Then he said, okay. He asked if he could come up after the honeymoon, just him, no entourage. I told him he was welcome. He said, I don't know how to get off a plane in Portland and not immediately start calculating how much trouble I'm in for being there. I said, you're not in trouble anymore. That's kind of the point. While all this was happening, the passive-aggressive campaign went active-aggressive. My sister left me a voicemail that was basically a drunk dial without the alcohol, pleading with me to stop making mom look bad. She said people were cornering her at the reception asking where I was and she had to be the one to keep the story straight and I made her look like a liar. I considered calling back and saying, you made you look like a liar, but there are only so many fires to put out and I have an actual job. I didn't call. She texted the next afternoon that my mother cried all night because I hung up on her at the altar, which is objectively a work of fiction since I hung up from my couch 45 minutes away from any altar. Not one person asked if I was okay. They asked why I did this to them, which is a level of main character syndrome you can only achieve through decades of training. My aunt and my cousin actually followed through and came to Oregon. It wasn't camping because of the time crunch, but they rented a little place out near Hood River for a weekend and we did that whole cliché PNW thing where you eat fish tacos by a river and drink coffee that tastes like someone else's idea of religion and every third person has a dog that looks like it was designed by a committee of flannel shirts. They listened. They didn't try to rewrite. My aunt told me stories about my mother from before any of us were born. She said the first time my mom felt really powerful in her life was planning things, controlling outcomes, making a room behave, and that after a while that's the only way she knows how to love, if she's the director and we keep hitting our marks. She said she's never seen my mom more panicked than when someone improvises. On the second day my dad sent me a letter. An actual paper letter. In it was a photo from when we were 6 at some birthday party where we are blowing out candles together, and our cheeks are mirror images. On the back, in my dad's tidy engineer handwriting, he wrote, I've been a coward. I don't get to ask you to forgive me. I can ask you to let me try to be a father you don't have to parent. He told me he confronted my mother and that she said, verbatim, I had to protect our family from him leaving again, which is a wild sentence when the leaving she's talking about is me getting on planes to come visit them as often as humanly possible. He said she cried and said I make her feel like she's failed at keeping the nest together. He said he told her that a nest isn't a prison. I don't think my dad has said a sentence like that out loud in 30 years. For everyone who wanted to know if pulling the plug on the free utilities had a ripple effect, it did. Not the petty satisfaction of knowing they couldn't watch Bluey during brunch, but the adult satisfaction of seeing a boundary enforced. My mom texted me using my dad's phone, "I hope this made you feel big," and I was halfway through typing. It made me feel small enough to fit in my own life for once, but again, only so much oxygen. I settled for, paying your own bills is a good feeling. You should try it. She hasn't texted since. I'd like to say that doesn't land anywhere in me, but it does. It lands in the part of my chest that wants to fix everything even when everything is a black hole that gets bigger when you feed it. One funny sad thing, somebody posted a video from the reception where the MC is hyping the crowd and goes, "We're so happy everyone could make it tonight, even our travelers from out of state." Oh wait, not all of them, and there's this ripple of awkward laughter. Someone commented, "We missed you," with a heart emoji, and my aunt replied, "He wasn't invited to the first thing and then he didn't invite himself to the second." The comment thread turned into a suburban civil war, then it disappeared. I assume my mother or sister-in-law did a cleanup sweep. I get it. No one wants their wedding hashtag to turn into a deposition exhibit. In the midst of drama, regular life kept happening. I went to work and did the unglamorous things I always do that get me called a success story in one breath and show off in another. I took my girlfriend out to dinner and told her that my family has decided she is the villain in a plot she didn't audition for. She put a hand on my arm and said, "Are we adopting strays?" Because I didn't bring snacks. She asked what I needed from her and then did that. She is better at this than people who have known me my whole life. I also started therapy, which is a sentence I should have said a year ago and 5 years ago and probably somewhere around the time my mother thought telling a room full of extended family that I finally found someone who can put up with me was charming. My therapist asked me what I want if I scrub out the part of my brain that wants to make other people not feel bad. I said I want to sit across from my brother and feel like we share a language again. I want to have a father who would walk out of a restaurant if my mother started scheming like a mob boss about excluding his son. I want my mother to look at me and see a person, not an object lesson. As for my brother, he booked a flight. He sent me the screenshot because we both know that otherwise it would stay theoretical forever. He's coming up in 2 weeks, just for a long weekend. He said he wants to see where I live like a real person, not like a stop on a guilt tour. He said he'd be willing to tell the truth to whoever needs to hear it, even if it means my mother doesn't talk to him for a while. I told him that part is his to figure out. I'm not trading being mom's scapegoat for being my brother's accountability coach, but I'm going to pick him up from the airport. We're going to eat terrible donuts that Portland tourists love and go stand in front of a waterfall like we're in a Windows background and maybe go to a Blazers game and yell at men in shorts like normal brothers. My dad asked if he could come out after that. I told him he could, but I will not host a summit. No interventions. No accidental calls where my mother's face pops up on an iPad and she pops in like a Marvel villain. He agreed. We'll see. If you're reading this hoping for a big cinematic reconciliation where my mother stands on a chair and delivers a monologue about how she sees the error of her ways, I don't have that for you. What I have is quieter and, for me, louder, a boundary that's holding, an inbox that contains an apology with actual nouns and verbs, a plane ticket with my twin's name on it and Portland as the destination, and a blue sky that didn't cost me $200 and a sunburn. If anything truly wild happens when he's here, I'll update. But for now, the story is me not booking Phoenix and Phoenix not booking me and discovering that the guilt I thought was a birthmark washes off a little more each day I don't pick up the phone. Update 3. My brother landed on a Thursday that started in rain, paused for sunshine, then decided it missed the drama and went back to rain. Very Portland. He walked out of the gate with the same face I've had since 1995 and a carry-on that looked like it had been packed by anxiety. Too many zippers, not enough sense. We did that thing where you hug like you're unsure which parts of you are allowed to touch and then 40% of your childhood shows up and you don't know where to put that either, so you just hold on. On the drive he did a running commentary on trees like he'd never seen them before. I said something about moss being the Pacific Northwest's carpet and he said, "Mom would vacuum this." It was a tiny sentence, but it broke the ice so cleanly I could hear the crack. We did exactly what I said we'd do. I took him for the donuts everyone buys for Instagram and eats for duty, and he bit into one and made a face like he discovered religion and then discovered it was stale. We went to see the waterfall that's more photographed than half the people on television, and he leaned against the railing and said, "We should have done stupid road trips like this in college." Then he laughed in that way we both laugh, where your shoulders do more of the sound than your mouth. We went to a Blazers game and yelled at men in shorts. They lost, which felt like civic participation. We got cold and bought hot dogs we didn't need because that's how nostalgia bribes you. The first night, he fell asleep on my couch because he insisted on seeing the real Portland and that apparently included the exact sensation of falling asleep to rain hitting a window that never fully seals. He woke up at 2 in the morning like his body remembered where the practical conversations hide. He padded into the kitchen barefoot, and we made the kind of tea people buy because someone on a podcast told them to and then forget they own. He said, very quietly, I almost didn't come. He didn't look at me when he said it. He stared at the steam like it had subtitles. She cried, and then she got very calm. She told me if I flew up here I was choosing you over the rest of us. He used air quotes without thinking and then flinched like he wasn't allowed to. He said Mom also told him if he started making a habit of flying away to fix things they would stop being his things. He said he picked his flight because he was tired of his life sounding like a hostage note. He asked if I wanted to see something, and I said yes, thinking it would be a photo, or maybe he would reach into the carry-on and pull out some ancient artifact of our childhood that would make us both cry next to a sink. He opened his phone. Family group chat. The cursed fam bam chat with the balloon icon that makes your thumb itch. He scrolled back to the week of the engagement party and showed me where the lies got decided like a lunch order. He scrolled further and I saw a poll about rehearsal dinner head count and a reply from him that said, should I tell, my name, there's no room, followed by my mother's we are doing family only, which landed like a paper cut in the exact spot you keep dipping in lemon. He said he'd been telling himself these were just messages. He said he realized in the last few weeks that messages build rooms, and we've been living inside one. He typed a new message. He didn't ask me to help. He didn't ask if I wanted to wordsmith it. He didn't make me an editor of a confession I didn't write. He just typed and then turned the brightness down so the blue didn't feel like a police light. He wrote that he lied. He wrote that he went along with cutting me out of the engagement party because he was scared of our mother and the sound she makes when she decides there will be consequences. He wrote that I wasn't busy. I wasn't flaky. I wasn't too Portland for family. He wrote that I was asking to be included right up until the day, and that he ignored me. He wrote that he's sorry, that he's embarrassed, that he's choosing to say this where everyone can see it because he lied where everyone could hear it. He hit send. The chat went dead for 12 minutes, which felt like 12 months. Then my sister replied with the heat of someone who forgot to take the foil off before microwaving. Why are you doing this to Mom? No question mark. There never is. Then a string of messages about loyalty and airing dirty laundry and how we don't do that in this family, which is objectively hilarious since we do nothing but that. We just do it in whispers and then call it tradition. My sister-in-law stepped in, which I wasn't expecting, and wrote, we've been doing laundry for a year. We just kept it in Mom's machine. Then she dropped screenshots. Her own mother would be proud, that was a presentation. Circle, arrow, annotation. She didn't stack the deck. She said who said what and when, and she ended it with, we owe, my name, an apology. You don't have to like him. You do have to stop lying about him. My mother left the chat. It pinged that someone had exited, which felt both biblical and petty, like when someone stands up from dinner too fast and their chair scrapes the tile. 2 minutes later, a new chat appeared at the top of my brother's screen. Family, no drama. Same balloons, no me and, hilariously, no my sister-in-law. He didn't add me, I told him not to. He put his phone face down like it was a hot plate and said, I think I'm out of the church. We sat there in the kitchen in the kind of silence that doesn't ask if you want it. The next morning we did normal things which felt weird. We went to a farmer's market because apparently I'm now a person who has opinions on beets. He kept making fun of the way everyone here acts like Kale earned a degree. We stopped by my office for 5 minutes because I left my badge on my desk and you need it to get into the bathroom like we're guarding state secrets instead of Slack. He looked at the view and said, okay, I get it. And I don't know if he meant the city or the life or why I wouldn't move back to a house where the thermostat is a mood ring. We had one of those long, unglamorous talks that I think only happen between people who share a face. He told me 3 specific stories I didn't know about where Mom turned a dial on him so gradually he didn't realize the station had changed. Junior year, homecoming. A job he turned down because it was 25 minutes further from the house and she told him traffic was dangerous. The time he was supposed to come up here last fall, bought a flight, and cancelled it 36 hours before because she got quiet and he knew what that meant. He cried in the way we cry, where your breathing gets weird before your eyes do. He apologized like he was carrying a giant box down a narrow staircase, careful, awkward, no drama, just wait. He didn't ask me to forgive him. He asked me to keep telling him when he starts doing the thing where he hands me his shame and then punishes me for holding it. I said I would, but I'm not going to be his detox center. Saturday night, my dad FaceTimed us from my aunt and uncle's garage. Same folding chairs, same view of the Dodge in the driveway. He looked like a man who had found a new muscle and was trying to use it without hurting himself. He said he was proud of my brother, which made my brother look like a kid who just learned to swim and touch the wall. He said he told my mother he's coming up here next month and that the days of clearing that with her are over. He said he started therapy. He used the word individual, not couple. He didn't offer me promises that depend on other people's choices. He said, I can't fix your mother. I can stop being a tool she uses. It was the most adult thing I've ever heard him say. I didn't hear from my mother until Sunday. She emailed me from a brand new Gmail address with my full government name in it, which made the subject line, enough, feel extra like a summons. The body read like a closing argument delivered in a kitchen. She said she has never once tried to hurt me and if I felt hurt then that's on me for misinterpreting firm expectations as cruelty. She said my brother is confused by a city that sells kombucha as a personality, which is such a perfect sentence that I almost admired it. She said if I had behaved like family she would not have had to teach boundaries. She used the phrase teach a lesson, and my therapist should send her a fruit basket because it takes most patients 6 months to hand over the thesis sentence like that. I didn't respond. My brother did. He replied to all, which I guess is genetic. He wrote, "Mom, I love you." I heard him. That's on me. Please don't use words like teach. Please don't use words like boundaries when what you mean is control. She didn't respond to that either. There was an almost summit. My sister tried to FaceTime me while I was in line for coffee with my brother because apparently she thinks surprise is my love language now. When I didn't answer, she texted open the door it's me, and my heart rate did a cardio routine my Apple Watch didn't authorize. I looked at my brother, and he looked at me with that twin thing where a conversation happens in your eyebrows. I texted back, if you are downstairs, leave. If you are making a joke, don't. She sent a photo of the street sign outside my building. She was in my city. She had come up, I guess, as a one-woman SWAT team for Mom's narrative. I told her if she walked up my stairs I would not open the door. I told her that showing up uninvited isn't romantic, it's rude. She replied, "We're family." I said, "Exactly." She didn't come up. She texted later that she just wanted me to hear Mom's side without interference, which is my favorite thing anybody has said about me, the idea that me simply existing counts as interference. She flew back Sunday night. I didn't see her. My brother, to his credit, texted her before she even left the street, that was not okay, and got a paragraph back about betrayal that he read, winced, and then didn't chase. Growth looks so small sometimes it feels like you're missing it. The visit was full of those tiny movements that look like nothing on Instagram and feel like everything in a kitchen. He opened all my cabinets looking for a mug and didn't make a comment about how there are more spices than in our childhood pantry, where cayenne is what you said when you stubbed your toe. He sat on my couch and watched a show he didn't care about just because it was the show I watch on weeknights when I'm not trying to distill my life into a post. He met my girlfriend and they were weird in the way strangers who might be family are weird in their first 5 minutes, and then they made a joke at my expense and I thought, okay, maybe this is what I was missing, someone to bully me lovingly about my socks. Before he left, he asked if he could send a message to the extended family group. I told him he could do whatever he wants as long as the subject isn't me like a specimen. He wrote a message that said, "I lied about why my brother wasn't at the engagement party. I lied about why he wasn't at the wedding. He did not snub me. He did not turn California. He lives in Oregon. I chose to keep the house quiet. I am done choosing that when the cost is him." He added, "Don't contact him if your plan is to ask him to make my mother feel better. Contact me." He hit send. Then he turned his phone off for the first time in, I swear, a decade. We sat there listening to the quiet like it was a song we both forgot we loved. He flew back to Arizona and I waited for impact. It came in the form of silence from some quarters and small, awkward apologies from others that sounded like people trying on a new shoe. My cousin texted, "I'm sorry I didn't ask you directly. That's on me." My aunt sent me a photo of her flipping off her own oven and captioned it, "No more family dinners with assigned seating." My grandmother called my work line because she remembered it from my email signature and left a voicemail where she said she loves both of her tall boys and she is too old to do secrets, which made me cry on a Tuesday next to a ficus. The wildest thing, for me, wasn't a dramatic confrontation. It was my dad booking a flight and sending me the screenshot like he was showing me a bird he caught. He came this past weekend. He arrived with tools in his check bag because apparently the way he says I love you is with a wrench. He fixed the hinge on my pantry door that has driven me insane for a year. He silently replaced the battery in both smoke detectors. He wrote a checklist on a post-it that said find that weird sound in the bathroom fan, and then found it. He cooked exactly one thing, eggs, and washed the pan like he was apologizing to it. We went for a walk and he told me he's sleeping in the guest room back home for now. He said he isn't punishing my mother, he is unparticipating. He said he will not attend dinners where orders are given about which son exists in public. He said he told my mother the same thing he wrote me, a nest isn't a prison. He asked if that felt like betrayal. I said it felt like a father. We didn't have the big talk like in movies where someone says the sentence that makes everything retroactively okay. He asked me what kind of drill he should buy me. We stood in a hardware aisle and picked one like it was a baby name. He cried a little in the pickup line at the airport when he left. He tried to hide it, and then he didn't. He said, "I am sorry I was absent while present." I said, "I know. My mother, in case you're wondering, has gone quiet publicly and louder privately." She sent my brother a long text that could be studied in a sociology course about how shame moves through bloodlines. It included the sentence, "I will not be cast as the villain in my own home." My brother responded, "That depends on your actions." She didn't like that. She tried to triangulate through my aunt and got shut down so cleanly my aunt should teach a class. She did manage one last flare-up, a Facebook post about how kids these days don't value family or gratitude with a photo of a generic sunset attached. She got 22 likes and a comment from someone named Donna who said hugs. I hope the dopamine hit was worth the flights. Sister-in-law and I have been texting like two people standing on opposite sides of a battlefield waving white dish towels. She asked if she could send me the Google Drive with the wedding stuff because it feels gross to have all of it with your name erased. I told her she doesn't owe me paperwork. She said she wants to be the kind of person who doesn't keep proof of other people's pain. She and my brother asked if they could come up for Thanksgiving, which is equal parts bold and naive. I told them they're welcome. I told them I will not be making a turkey because I refuse to fight a bird and a memory on the same day, but I will make a lasagna like an unapologetic heathen. They said that sounds perfect. We'll see. Plans are plans until my mom discovers flight schedules. I wish I could say all of this lifted off me in the exact straight line a plane does. It didn't. It feels more like carrying something heavy for a long time and then setting it down and realizing your arms keep curling anyway. I'm still working in therapy on not making my peace contingent on my mother's choices. Some days I'm great at it. Some days my phone buzzes and my heart sprints like it has a bet on losing. I'm learning to let the sprint happen and not run with it. Here is the part where I think you probably want a headline. If there is one, it's this: my brother used his own voice in the room where I lost mine, and my dad found a spine he'd hidden under the sink with the extra sponges. My mother is making a fort out of the narrative and I am not knocking on the door. There is a plane ticket for November with 2 names on it and my city as the destination. There is a squeak-free pantry door. There is a family group chat with my name not in it that I have never felt freer from. There is rain that comes and goes and comes back and feels less like moody weather and more like a personality I happen to love. If anything gets unhinged around Thanksgiving, I'll report back. But for now, it's quiet. The kind of quiet that builds rather than kills. The kind where 2 brothers can be in different states and still laugh the same way at the same stupid meme. The kind where a father can fix a hinge and mean it. The kind where you make lasagna in November and call it a tradition because you said so.